So let's go. I will talk a little bit about design and my ideas about it. It's a good topic for me because I'm a designer and not really a coder, so I will give my best. First of all, a part of what I'm talking about today is actually a section of the manual of crawl. So maybe I say something about design. Okay, and so some parts of this you could read in the manual. I hope that you didn't know it all. And if you do, I will say some different things. Perhaps you can close the door. Off the tram. Oh, and I try to say things in a manner that also apply to other games, smaller games and so on. Okay, so first of all, when I got bored with redoing documentation, and it was a large effort, then I just sat down and started to think what are some unifying principles in crawl that I've seen, and just because of the boredom, I wrote them down. And then I asked the others if it's okay what I wrote down, and everybody was excited. So we kept it, and I think it really pays off if you try to think what are the larger overarching goals of your game. What do you want and what you don't want? And our crawl philosophy section starts with this game aims to be a tactical fantasy themed dungeon crawl, and then it also says we strive for strategy being a concern and for exquisite gameplay and interface that sounds like advertising. And then it says, however, don't expect plots or quests. So what I mean by this are three things in crawl. So first of all, it's a tactical game. It's not a role-playing game, and the other bit is I really would like it if strategy would play a role. So strategy means so that's not a short-term affair, but a long-term one. Yeah? So I think a good point to start is, at least if once a game becomes bigger, is to set out a goal like this. Fine. Theme. And by theme I mean in designer's terms, not in flavor terms. And by theme I mean in designer's terms. Like what I said, it's a tactical game with a strategy component that doesn't have puzzles and plots. This is what I mean. So when I write example, I usually read crawl. Sometimes I mean anything. I'll say it. I mean, of course, you can do many things here. I'm not saying that one way is the best, and I'm just saying what we usually do or what we do, and what you could do it in many other ways. Okay, and so this is one thing. This helps, for example, this helps when you are thinking about whether you want plots or not. If you have once made your mind that you don't want a storyline, then it's of course clear that you probably don't want plots. And if you want plots, then it's good to notice it at a very easy time, at a very early time, so that you can, for example, try to randomize the plots. Okay, so that's that. But what I really want to talk about is something different. And we have major design goals. And I'll just write them down and say something about them. And we have larger ones. So the first one is balance, or balance is a large word. So what I mean by this skill, so player skill makes a difference. This sounds trivial, because player skill always makes a difference, but I will say what I mean by this. The next one is avoid no-brainers. The next one is avoid grinding. And the next one is that gets trivial. That is I will mention it. You should make the interface as smooth as possible. It's hard to do, but you should do it. But I will write it down. And then we have some minor goals, and it's good to know that these are minor. Clarity. This means no spoilers needed. The next one is what heck. The next one is consistency. So this is like internal. So for example, it would not be consistent if you mix science fiction with fantasy, right? Like this. It's like an internal theme. Oh, what's going on here? Oh no,
what you see is what you get. And
my head.
What you write is what you get.
My advanced word processor abilities now. Like this. And another one, replayability. Of course, you don't need to set these goals, and you could have other goals. You could prioritize them in a different way. Okay, that would be also. This is just for call. Okay, let me say something about these goals in order. The first, another one. So the first about balance. I mean, balance is a huge word, and everybody means something different by it. So let me just start with an example. In NetAttack, for example, it is possible to win reliably. I mean, if you don't do a challenge game and you start a game and you know what you're doing, then you can win that game. I think that's just the way it is. On the other hand, I don't think you can win NetAttack unspoiled. I mean, people, someone tried, and you can probably get to the castle, but I don't think you can win the full game. It would require very many tries. So this is one thing. In Call, you can win without any spoilers. People do this. So I've seen this just 2 weeks ago. This is possible, and it is not reliably possible to win. I mean, we have streaks of 19, and I think this is bad, and we should do something about it. But I don't think you can win as reliably as in NetAttack. Okay. So and for me, balance means that the NetAttack way is bad and the Call way is good. You could also see it in different ways. So balance is a very fluid piece. Yeah. Very good. Okay. So just so you have in mind, I'm not saying absolute truth here.
I think player skill makes a difference is a very good point, because you mentioned it in every game. Player skill makes a difference. It's partly true, but I think there are games like roguelike games, even like Diablo, where player skill rarely matters in the normal game, not in hardcore mode.
Yes.
Where it's just if you have the time, you can grind, and that's not skillful. It's just patient.
I mean, of course, it also takes skill to win a NetAttack game. So let's exclude challenge games, because these obviously require a lot of skill. But even if you want to win a normal NetAttack game, then that requires some skill. But on the other hand, you can do, as I did and probably many before, you can just read so many spoilers that you simply, it takes some skill, because you have to perform it physically on the keyboard. But in a sense, it has all been done before, and so it requires less skill than it should. And that is what I mean. Okay. So another part of balance is, for example, who do you want to address, the power gamers or the casual gamers? I don't think you should plan a game for the power gamers. You will have power gamers, and they will demand whatever they demand, and you should try to address the other ones. A related issue is how do you deal with unfair deaths? Yeah, so this is I don't have space to write it, so I just say this. And if somebody is interested, I can make a better version of this. It's in LaTeX and can send it around, so you can have something to read it. So should unfair death be avoided? Of course, players will say yes. We don't want to be killed unfairly, and it's bad if I open a door and there's something there and I just die. This is bad. But on the other hand, I think unfair deaths are a great opportunity for players to prove themselves. There can be too much unfairness, but if you have some, then you can really see a difference. There are players who will survive because they play much more resourceful. They expect that something could happen that is not supposed to happen, and in this way, beasts like out of death monsters can be useful. Players will hate them usually, but they really serve a purpose, because, for example, properly chosen out of death monsters can make players feel much more visible. Yeah. So I think you shouldn't be afraid of it. I mean, people will complain if they get killed on level 3 by a raid by someone will survive, but then it has been useful. If everybody gets killed every time we're all out of death monsters, then it was too much balance. Yeah. You should play for the balance. Okay. Yeah, so I will not bore you with all the details of crawl unless you ask. Maybe about avoiding no-brainers. I should also say, the first 3 design notes I have here, they are really important in the sense that when we are thinking about stuff, then and somebody says this would violate the no-brainer idea, then we will simply not use it because it is so important to us that we can rely on this in designing. The minor design goals are not as important, but if somebody says this would introduce grinding by the backdoor, then we will just not use it, so we will try to stick to it. The no-brainer thing is really, really important. This means essentially no farming. In crawl it also means no selling to shops. And so on. The basic definition is the basic idea is a no-brainer is an activity where you have low risk and it may take time on it and some reward. And if you have this is fine, right? If you have this, then you can do it and you can carry on, and then in the end you will have gained something. In the worst case, this is even optimal play. So there's this farming method available. For example, in that case you have alchemy or you have pudding farming, and then you don't have to use it, but it is a very strong method. Players can use it, and it could even happen that it's the optimal way to play the game. I don't think that's the case in Ethic, but it's there, and I think we should, as a designer, actually try to go around this. Maybe a little confused you. I did. I just explained what grinding is. Yeah. And yes, so this is really important. Crawl has grinding on its own. For example, if you're high level, then you can grind the abyss. That's an area that's supposed to be hard, but the better you get, the less hard it is. And if you are a high level character, 72, 20, 27, then you can just grind it. And this is bad, and we will do something about it. This no-brainer stuff is actually making choices meaningful. Yeah. What is an example? Where do I can come up with an example? Yeah. For example, in Ethic, which I played before I played Crawl, there's this essential kit. You have a list of items and a list of resistances which you need, and then you can try and then you can look for which items provide the necessary resistances, and then you come up with a very short list and you need it. And then at some point in the game you will need it. NetDeck happens to have vision, so you can just wish for the items and that's it. Yeah? So there's very little choice in there left. I mean, you can go with a shield of reflection or without, but that's about it. There's very, very few choices in there, which is sad. If you have random artifacts like powder or like, I think it's inherited from Angband, then it's much better, because then you can plan for something definite in the beginning. You have to work with what to find, and the choices you have to do in the game are much more meaningful. So this is, and you can do this in many circumstances. When you add a spell, you can and should think about, does this spell make something not meaningful or meaningless, which has been meaningful before? I will give examples perhaps later. Yeah, so this is really important, avoiding no-brainers. The game has a set of choices at the moment. Try to keep the choices, and sometimes you can also work in a way that tool choices or where the answer was always clear can be made in a different way. Yeah?
One example that always comes to me is even corpses in that hat for intrinsics. Yeah. Because the intrinsics are permanent. Exactly. And this makes rings of fire resistance no-brainers, because you should just throw them out, because as soon as you get fire resistance intrinsically, it's gone.
How do you do this in powder?
You only get temporary intrinsics for these corpses, and so you get it for like a few hundred turns. So you can rely on that a little bit, but then it'll expand out, and you don't necessarily know if you still have it. So you still want those rings.
And the ring is permanent.
Yeah, the rings. As long as you have it on. So.
This is good, of course. I think Derek Ray of Sporkhack he does something different. I think in Sporkhack you can eat the fire ring and you will get resistance, but only a bit, and you can eat another one and you will get another bit. But so you convert to 100%, but you won't quite get there. So this is another approach. But I think that the way Netic does it is there's a long list of resistances. You want it, and then you just have to get it. Once you have it, then all the items that provided are not meaningful anymore. This is dead. Yeah. Don't you think so?
I think you actually don't need that much over resistance.
Yes, but this
players think they need.
Yes, but this is another problem. The resistances have been introduced, but they are not even as necessary as they should be. This is another problem actually. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot of things that have been introduced, and then by some other parts of the game have been kind of made unimportant again. This is pretty bad. For example, if you have reflection, then many of the elemental resistances are not as important as they should be. So this is, I mean, I only know Netic really well. Netic has a lot of bad points like this. It's pretty sad.
Yeah. But even if they are meaningless, it's still a no-brainer to eat these corpses if
you
can, just to be in the safe zone.
Of course, yeah. So poor Netic.
People spend lots of time to find one of until they
the
find
black dragon corpse. It's always.
Yes, of course. I have reverse suicide and black dragons in order to get using firm, but it's not necessary.
You have a reflection.
Yes, it's not
or
necessary.
if you carry a shield, you have it will destroy your shield in the first turn. It's the real. I think the players are more paranoid than
altars all the time. That's why I need it.
What?
Why Queen disintegration from the god if you piss off the altar too much.
Yes, but I mean what you say is true, but it kind of just makes the deficit even bigger, because now we have two bad choices by the game, right? So you can get permanent resistances in an easy way, and they don't matter. So I mean, this is pretty sad. Or they matter less than they should. Yeah. For example, Crawl tries to approach this by having 3 levels of fire and cold resistance, so that and it's pretty hard to get 3 of them, and there are stages in the game where you would like to have 3 of them, and then you have to really juggle for how to get them. This is one approach. Okay. I will just give an example for no spoilers needed. In Crawl we have poisonous corpses, like many games, and we have also corpses that are bad in a different way. They only provide nutrition in some cases, and in others they don't. These are called what are they called? They give sickness.
Contaminated.
Contaminated. That's what I call. And usually players need a spoiler or to ask someone if a particular corpse has this property. It's easy in the beginning because you notice, but if you stumble upon, I don't know, a death yak, then I never know if it is has a property X or not. And I play unspoiled, so I'm an unspoiled player, so I never know this. And in the last version we did the following: the corpse tells you what its type is. It has a color, and the color tells you if it's poisonous or whatever.
And if you look at the information, you also read it.
Yes, and so you can completely read it. And players are sometimes reluctant to do this because they say players should find it out, and then it's fun to figure it out. I don't think so. Our philosophy is if it's fun to figure it out only once, then it's probably not worth to have this part of fun. This kind of fun. Just add it in the game, give the information away, because it is much more fun to have decisions that occur all the time. Yeah, so this one-time solving stuff is spoiler content. You should not have it in the game. So he will try to. I mean, it's not a spoiler to us, and just give the information away. And you don't think so?
No, I just saying I liked it a lot in Adam, where I didn't read the guidebook and discovered some stuff like in one level where there are many teleporting traps, and if you do it right, you can come into a small room which you can't reach otherwise.
Yeah.
And without having this spoiled, it was a big success for me to discover that, and it made me gain more.
I think it's a different kind of spoiler we're talking about. What you had is kind of a puzzle level, and the puzzle level can have a spoiler because it's probably preset, and somebody could make a spoiler. It's like Sokoban. I never needed a Sokoban spoiler. I just set on the screen and solve the puzzle, and it's okay. But what I mean is rather long lists like of all monsters, of all spells, of all weapons, how much damage do you, and of course you cannot give away the numbers. You cannot give away the details, and then the player has to figure it out, or he has to look it up. Or you can do. And I think this kind of information gathering is not so much fun. I mean, if you have a clever puzzle, then of course it's not a good idea to give away the solution in the game. I would not do this. Yeah, so I don't think it would be good if Netek said how this was to go on. That's not good. But I don't think it is okay to hide mechanics that players have to really have to use all the time. Yeah. For example, I never knew that giant ants are edible for now I know because they're not edible. You can eat them. If you find a giant ant, you can eat it.
Sorry, again, you can eat what?
Giant ants.
Giant ant, okay.
Yeah.
Just you would expect it to be poisonous, but it's not.
Yes, they're poisonous and very dangerous, but you can when they're dead, you can eat them. I never knew, but it's true. Okay, so this is what I got.
Of course,
What about things like monster effects and things like that?
Yeah, this is problematic, and we haven't made up our mind on that.
Because Angband, I've always liked their solution, which is to have the game, the monster memory, so it automatically solves this problem over time, so you can't get the monsters. So you don't have to really. It's sort of got a built-in spoiler that builds itself as you progress. Yeah. We have huge internal debates on this, and we have not made up our mind yet. I don't think the current state is very unsatisfactory. We don't give away any of this information, and it's bad. Because you could do something like that even with the poisonous corpses, right? You could have an out-of-player memory for the game, which learns which corpses are poisonous from experience. Yeah. So the user can have that, because there is some joy in figuring things out the first time, which weapons more powerful, whatever. Yeah. But as soon as you figure it out, what's really tedious is when I have to keep leafing through my printed out spoilers to find out if this particular thing is poisonous.
Exactly.
And so it's sort of like, that way also people don't feel the need to print out that list because they know they will learn it in the game. Yeah. And so they won't go straight to the spoiler satisfying.
I think the main trouble we had is that we don't want to give out many numbers like this monster attacked 4 times and so on. So I would like to have this in a more qualitative, not quantitative way. So and we haven't made up our minds on this, but I think we will do something here. I don't know. But what do you think?
Yeah, just wanted to say the very same thing. Only you formulated it better.
For example, in Troll, it's very, very unclear if a particular monster has See Invisible or not, which is very important because if it does not have See Invisible, then the potion of invisibility is very, very nice to have. For example, dragons don't see invisible, and you can often escape by becoming invisible yourself. But you don't know this in advance, and there's no way to check this in game. So you have to rely on a spoiler. This is a pretty sad state, and we have to do something about it. Okay. I say something about not selling the shops. I think this is actually a good point. This is back from Lindley, and he just noted by playing that carrying stuff to the shops and sell it is just a tedious activity. You just make up some lucrative excuse for why they don't buy, and that's it. It's a good move because you are just, you are getting some money, but it's not really fun. Power gamers like it because they do something and they get it better over time, but it's just not fun. And I think it's good to abolish this.
I didn't. Most roguelike games, when they have selling, you can sell anything, almost anything. Yeah. But in some games, you just don't have useless items. So when you sell those items, you are making a decision. Okay, I need gold now. Yes. I would really like to have this item, but I have to sell it.
Yes. You don't have to abolish it. You can make it meaningful. This is correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And another way would be if you have a game with artifacts that you can only sell artifacts, for example. This would also work. Yes, this is true.
Diablo almost does that because it's usually Diablo because it's the magic items that are usually worthwhile to pick up and sell in the store. You don't pick up the mundane items, you leave them on the ground. And so you do grab the gold ones and then you're like, oh, this isn't quite what I need to sell.
Yeah. But in Netek, I know it myself, dragging the whole dungeon empty, I hated it, but I still did it. So that's a bad trade of me, but I still hated it, and they would have liked it if I wouldn't have been able to do this. And so there's more than one solution, that's clear. Okay. Yeah. Replayability is actually a fun thing because it's well, I mean, how do we try to approach replayability? This is actually that boils down to
what's a roguelike?
Differentiation of everything. So you have a number of races, right? And many games have a number of races, and this is fun. But of course, it's only really fun if the races all play different. And this is not so easy to do. In Crawl, we have thrown out 2 races, and we will throw out more because they haven't been as differentiated as they should be. Yeah, so and this differentiation applies to everything. If you have classes, it also applies to classes. And if you have 4 different types of weapons and they play the same, then you can. Well, that's the question: why do you have them? Crawl has this question essentially. So this is why I'm putting it. So this is one thing, differentiation of everything, and you should really, I mean, if you have a number of options and you find 2 of them are alike, then it's a good idea to remove them. For example, Valis, he is the one of Steamboat, he did this, so he had a number of classes and then he found they're not all different and he just reduced it. Yeah, so this is okay. Another thing that Crawl does is using gods. I think, this is probably standard by now, but Crawl has a set of gods. And you have you choose a race and a class, and then independently of that, a god. So that's kind of another degree of freedom. And this works very well for replayability. And and this also boils down to playing style. We try to support as many different playing styles as possible. Like you can be stealth, and I mean it. So you are stealthy and you sneak around to a monster, use the shortest path that's possible, and stab it instead. And then you take the next one. That's of course a very different approach to everything than just hitting things on the head until they're dead. Because in some sense it's less dangerous because you are stabbing them. In other sense it's more dangerous. And you should really try to see what styles are there. It's best if you can watch the players. How are players approaching things, and you throw them some bones and look if they pick up the styles, and then you can see how they do. And I also like it if you can go from one style to another. So if you step for the first part, but then you find it's becoming difficult, then you try to change to a stabber and rage, and then so this works on Crawl, and this helps a lot with playability. And so some players are addicted, obviously, and this is I think one of the reasons.
If I can go a bit off topic for a moment.
Yeah.
I would like to get an insider view.
Okay.
What style do you normally play?
I usually play caster movements. So there's always something that's part caster for some reason. Well, it's easier to say what I don't play. There are several styles I don't understand, like Necromancer. I just don't understand it. I won once just in order to test if the playing style works, and it does. And so as usually I will start with something that can is a bit of both sides. It can hit things and it can cast a bit, and then you can find, then you stumble upon something in a dungeon like a book or a good weapon, and then you can try to use it. And I like this kind of flexibility. And so it is also possible with a pure melee character, so you have something that has a shield and a sword, and then you find a good book, and then you can try to turn this into a caster. But of course, it's much easier to be flexible if you have someone who is a jack of all trades. So I usually prefer this. I like this kind of flexibility a lot. And I always accuse players if they complain this game sucks because I didn't find whatever resistance by level 18, and I usually say to them if they would have been more flexible in their approach, then you could get around this. If you are level 15 and you don't think you will find resistance to electricity, then you can try to change the approach to the character, do some casting, remove the heavy armor, that's possible, and then you can get the electricity resistance via a spell. So that is possible, but of course if you just stick to one style, then you can die with this. And I really like this. I think when I said that there should be strategy in the game, I mean by this it should be possible to die from strategical mistakes, and that's possible. I've seen it. I did it and I've seen it, so this is good. It's of course also possible to die by tactical mistakes. That's the common death. But you can also die in a strategical sense. For example, in Crawl you have skills. You can develop many skills, but you can develop all at once, and experience is very limited. So there's a kind of experience pool, and you have to try to optimize what skills you're getting up and which you don't. You can be too narrow, if you're a melee fighter and you only train your weapon and your armor and your shield, then this is very good. But it could happen very well that at the end you see it's not enough for some reason. For example, you are not able to kill the toughest monsters, you don't have anything else. That's it, and you probably die. You can still be resourceful and use all what the game has given to you in resources. But I mean, you could die from this. Another way would be you are very flexible and try to skill everything, and then you are too broad, and then you are not good enough at the things you have skilled because the skills are still too low, and then you can also die. So this is, and it's not really clear when to change your approach to the skills, but sometimes it should be done, and this is of course what sets good players apart. And you can really see this. They will say, at this point I found this, and then I should be starting to go in this direction. And crawl allows it. It's not optimal. It's really not perfect. But this is one of the things I really like. So I think good design is having more possibilities for the players to make mistakes, really meaningful mistakes. They have choices, and each choice has some pros and cons, and they have to evaluate them, and then it's possible to make a mistake. That's how it should be. This is also why I don't like invincible characters. So if you can have a character that's not killable anymore by normal means, it's bad. Because I mean, how should they make a mistake? It's not possible anymore. And we try to avoid this. So we try to make it so that you can die at any time.
And you've succeeded.
Yes. Well, not enough, because we have this streak of 90 games. This is really bad. I was shaking when I saw this. There's a player, Starboard. It's our best player who came from NetTech, and he takes it very serious. And then he first had a streak of 6 games, but the last 3 games were all the same, all Centaur healers. So he kind of did the same thing every time, and then we saw, okay, Centaur healers are probably overpowered and they are too strong, and we did something. But then in the tournament, he had a streak of 19 games, and he played all kinds of characters. Evasion-based, armor-based, and casters, and melee, and all kinds of gods. And this is terrible. I mean, he's just winning everything. He's not dying.
The player must be overpowered.
Yeah.
The player must be overpowered.
Yes, the other players say this. The other players say, I don't should use a step round as an example because he's really a singularity. But of course, I mean, he's doing it. So he shows that the game is way too soft. So you have to make it harder. Yeah,
you need to change the plan.
I mean,
re-implement him.
I think in NetTech it's a bit similar. Maybe 10 years ago, nobody would have expected, I think, that you can reliably win any game. Yes, and it turned out to be the case just by Marvin was perhaps the first to prove this. And I think he had a streak of 20, 18, I don't know. So he had the first really long streak. And then others came with longer streaks. But this proves that NetTech is kind of solvable. So if you know what you want to do, and if you know all the details, then you can always win. And this is terrible for a game. Because then once one player can do this, then the knowledge will spread, and then after some time everybody who invests enough of patience or whatever, then can also do this. And if you have a state where everybody can essentially win because every game is winnable, then how do you set apart good players and even better players? There's no choice.
Wait. If the game is not winnable and this is something random, then it's bad too. Because it doesn't depend on players.
Yes, of course. What I'm saying is that you need some margin for the best players. Even the best players should die sometimes. Even that's what I said in the beginning. Even if it's unfair, it's better to have them sometimes unfairly killed because unexpected situations with kind of really out of death monsters or something are often still survivable, and it takes skill.
What about if they aren't? What about if these players actually achieve perfection?
What if they
so that the only way you could kill them would be to make an unfair that kills everyone?
No, I don't think this is true.
I don't think it's true. I don't think that we've reached that point. But as you go farther, you get closer to that point, right? It's sort of like saying chess. Chess is solvable, right?
Yes.
It's so either black or white's going to win or it's going to be a stalemate, right? It's guaranteed. It's still a pretty fun game, and you can play it, right?
Okay, then let me phrase it like this. In an ideal world, we would have a game where each individual game is winnable by the player, Yeah, but it's very hard to achieve this. So he has to be clever. So this works good with the human game master, because the human game master can see the strengths and weaknesses and compose problems for the player, and the player has to solve them. We can't do this in a roguelike because it's random, and so we have to approach this. And I think we should rather err on the conservative side as a designer. I would rather err on making the problems a bit too hard than a bit too easy. Yeah, I mean it's random, so that
it's still fun to lose sometimes.
Yes, of course. Yes.
One problem I see with too strong out of depth models is with playing styles. For example, in Tome there are lots of playing styles. I don't know, Minecraft or whatsoever. And at a certain level, the monster gets so tough that actually some playing styles become actually useless. So you end up with very limited choices.
But this means that the playing style is kind of artificial. It has been introduced by way of a class probably, but it doesn't live up to what it should be. So then there are two choices. Either you add content to make the playing style viable, or you allow for transition, or you just remove it. I mean, it's okay to remove stuff.
Yeah.
Did you actually compare, for example, the winner characters?
Yes.
They are different enough.
Yes, I compared them. Yeah. This is of course. Yes. This is part of the differentiation stuff they have at here. Replayability. Yes. I mean, in Call, winners are really different. So I mean,
because the artifact
yes, for several reasons. I mean, if you can grind in Crawl, it's intended there are 2 infinite branches, and if you play long enough, then you can make sure that the character will have full skills in all skills, and will probably have the best equipment. But if you don't do this, if you just play to win the game, winners look really different. I mean, players have one with 80 hit point or with 300 hit points, and it makes a huge difference in both ways. So this is another
good test.
This part really works, but the bad thing is that Starkbound is winning with several of these approaches. So it's not that it would be okay if we just take melee fighters and consistently won them, because it would prove that either he's doing too much damage or armor class is too strong or whatever. So this is one thing, but he's winning all of them. Of course, some patterns do emerge. So armor class is too strong, and he's winning way more melee fighters than classes, but he's also winning the classes in the streak, so it's a problem.
I guess my concern is probably the same as probably the player's concern, namely there's a fear that you'll start designing more for the really elite players. And you started this by talking about the need to address the new players. And so it's something like there could be a game where it's really easy for the advanced players, but it's still something the new players find challenging and exciting.
Yeah, this is true, but I've seen a player, this is Derek Ray of Sportcake, who has started for the tournament with Call, and he didn't play Call before, never read any spoilers, and he went unspoiled. He explicitly said so, and I think he did. And he was very clever about this. He only played with fighters, so I think Minotaurs or whatever, or maybe Dwarves. And he stick to a god, Trog, which is a stupid god, but it's a strong one in the beginning. And so he was Call has many options in the game. So he was restricting to a small part of this, and was getting feeling for how to work in that. And without any spoilers, he won in 2 weeks. So I'm really not afraid of this. Of course we care about the new players, and I talk a lot to them. And you can really say that sometimes they have barriers because they still think they have to kill everything, or because they are too reluctant to use resources, and then you can help them in breaking these barriers. And I think you can see it very often. A new player comes, and then after 1 month he's reliably able to get to the temple, and then he will probably die the first time he enters Elf, and then he will die the first time he enters Elf 7, and so on. But that's normal. I mean, everybody does it like this. So you can really see the progress. So I know what you mean, but I'm not afraid of this. But I really am afraid that the game can become soft. So it is not that I want that the best player loses at the second game, but if players can win every game, and 19 is almost like infinity. This is 19 years. So this is. I mean, I am concerned. I know that players are not concerned because they think it's good, but I think it's really a bad feature of the game. Yeah, so I am concerned. I hope that all our developers are concerned. I'm not really sure, but I think this will turn out to be a problem.
I never came close to winning, so
I know that Darsham is on my side, so we are good. Okay, so this is replay.
You are just jealous of them.
Yes, yes. I hate it when they win. I always like it when they die in the last level. I think everybody likes this, and I also like to die there myself. So it's a completely symmetric. It's just fun to. You have a good character. You have put everything you could into it, and then you're on the last level. And the last level is pretty hard. And it's pretty eccentric. And then you can just die there. And I think it's a lot of fun.
And I've got a slightly different attitude sometimes, which is more like looking at it as you've got this power curve, you get better and better. And I kind of like it when the character does become invincible.
Okay.
And then you can say, yay, and then just sort of have this freedom to play around a bit and cast your power spells, and finish the game, have a sort of denouement for the game, rather than this critical.
Yes, but it depends on where this point comes. If you are invincible very early, and then so for example, suppose in Nettic you could be invincible probably by
the castle.
Level there, by the castle, and then there's still a lot of game to come. This is bad. If after the castle there would be the final battle, that would be okay. So this yes, you can do this. And I never state absolute truth. So you of course you can go the invincible way. I just don't like it, but you should do it in a way that it's still fun. And it is not fun if you are invincible too early.
Yeah.
And of course, it also depends on how you approach invincibility. In Nettic, you can just whip it up and then it's there. If invincibility is much harder to come by because you have to be clever in the beginning, then it's much less a problem. Because not everyone will be invincible by level whatever. So this is there are many solutions.
I think it's level 20 or 50 or something.
Yes, this is that's too bad. Okay, well. What else do I have? So now I thought, yes, this is just from the section that you can read, and I can make a file out of it. And then I thought a bit more about when we actually design in more practical terms. Not so theoretical. Yeah.
To get back to the difficulty issue.
Yeah.
Have you considered auto balancing difficulty levels? That means that if let's say you have a player.
Yeah.
You've seen that for the past 100 turns, he never went beyond 70% HP. Then all the monsters get 20% more hit points and more damage or something.
Yeah, yes, we thought about it, but I don't think it will work, at least not in core. This is very, very problematic, because methods like this can always be scummed against. I mean, so for example, the player could choose to he kills 20 of the monsters and he knows, now is the breaking point, and then he just takes some damage to the red until he's in the red hit point, and then he kills it. And then the game has retreated. So it's very, very hard to do this in a good way. I think you can probably design a game around it, but you have to do this from the very early stages. I cannot add a support at this moment. It's not possible. But I think you could do this in a game in a really, really good way. But you have to know. I think it's a good idea, but you have to know it from the very beginning. Yeah? I don't know, do you do this?
No.
Yeah, but it would be possible.
Should be explored. My trouble with that sort of approach is it feels to the player like a Red Queen's race, where the faster you run, the more you stay in the same spot. And so it's like, if the game truly auto-balances against my skill level, and it does so transparently, winning doesn't really feel like I truly won. I think people prefer having an explicit difficulty level than having a difficulty level that's determined automatically.
I mean, you have to be clever. One way you could do the following: if the game measures player ability in some sense, and for example, instead of making monsters harder, it could just put down harder walls. In Call, we have these walls which are just composed little maps of something, and then have monsters and loot. And for example, you just put harder walls with harder monsters and better loot. So the player gets something, but he also has to exercise more cleverness in order to get it. So I think you could really approach this, but you have to think a lot about it before, but it would work. Yeah, would be a fun approach.
Somehow I don't like those ideas of adapting to the players. I even hate when
if it ever came to it, I would wait to it.
Antgrant had this option of monsters learning tactics.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I don't like it. I like to play the same game that other people play.
And I have known one shoot 'em up prototype was a name which does this. So if you are very good about dodging and evading, then it would just throw more waves at you, and the waves would be more clever. I think
Max Payne did the same.
Yes, I think it's the idea crops up every so often. I like it, so I think it is good. If you make a blunder and stumble, then you lose a life and it becomes easier again. So I like it. Of course, I think it's a approach that could be explored.
If there was some score, so the smarter
you could
get
they had a bar on the side, and as it went up, you knew it was getting.
So you can try to maximize it.
For higher I get, the more cool I am. So you just sort of.
Yes, for example, you could do the following. If you take this water approach, which I think is easier to balance than just making the monsters. So monsters could be the same, I think. But if you have a board with harder monsters, and then you solve it, you could have some item, one particular item that must have progress, and then you can collect it, and then so in the end, then you can show off or just count. What you have got. And then of course it would be interesting to players to really play on the edge. Do you see what I mean? You could just play to win, or you could really play on the edge in the best way and against the hardest walls and then still win. So I really think the idea is good, but you should start at a very, very low level with a very small game, and then it will probably work. I think it's a good idea. I don't think we can edit it. Maybe we should. No, I don't think it will work.
You mean because it's so overreaching and...
Yeah. I think this is a very, very basic idea that should be kind of the first.
Trying to measure how well the players... Well, I had this with Save Scum, where I thought I was being clever, and I took Ray Dillinger's idea of measuring the probability of you dying with any particular hit. Because if I've got 5 hit points left and someone hits me with 1d6 damage, there's like a 16% chance, whatever, of me dying. And you can just multiply those probabilities together. And in Save Scummer, your only actions are to go 1 turn forward or rewind time 1 turn. And it has a little AI, very dumb AI, moving that around and just attacking everything it sees. So the AI will kill itself off in like 1 level if you just autoplay. But you can just rewind time, redo the battle until it succeeds, you know. The idea is your probability of victory by the time you win will be something atrociously small. One of the players, though, went off and won the game with a 1.0 probability of victory. In other words, he rewound time before he got the hits that caused him to have a chance of dying, to the point where the game thought that this was a guaranteed victory, there was no probability of dying, yet I know this game will always kill a random player.
So he save scummed.
He save scummed until the point where the game couldn't tell that he had, you know, save scummed.
He scummed your game.
Yeah, it was a nice meta level thing. So that's the whole trouble with this sort of difficulties. How do you have a score that measures how clever the player's playing, which prevents the player from just, you know, playing more clever to artificially inflate that score?
Yes, I think this could be. I think you could find cool solutions, but you should really start. I mean, I think that's an idea that is so good and so large it could define a roguelike on its own. So you should. You don't need a theme for this. So this is good enough for you just to pursue. So this is definitely worth thinking about. And I don't think if you have a game of any given size, then you can't add this later. You have to do this from the beginning.
How many runes you collected in Brawl or so?
Yes, of course. These are all measures of difficulty. But for example, I cannot add this now because I can leave the room and only collect it at a later moment. So this is really a hard thing to do in a game. So I can't see any way that could not be scuffed against in Brawl, and they're not identical. I can't see. Okay.
We did on the positive side. We did end at the tutorial, so that's on the easy side for the players to.
Of course, yes, of course. I mean, we are taking new players pretty serious, so we have been adding a tutorial. I think Power has one too, right? But in the Power tutorial, you always die. I think this is fun in the Power tutorial. We don't always die.
No, but players have got to the signpost after where you're supposed to die. And, the signpost there says you're not supposed to be the signpost, you're supposed to be killed by the red dragons. That's a lot of red dragons.
Okay, and yes, this is very important. I will say something about this in the end. So let me now come to this is this. Let me now come to other stuff. This is just kind of a random notion that I've been notes that I've met over the time. I've made over time. That's it. So first of all, I mean, order is not important. I didn't have time to think about the order. The first is spells are problematic. I really mean. I mean, in balancing terms, when you think about the balance of your game. Spells are problematic because spells do not use a resource. They are of infinite type, and this is okay for something like a damage spell because you will probably have some magic meter, and you will use up something for the spell. And if you have a caster without any magic left, then you'll probably die. So that's okay. But this is not okay for spells that are used outside of battle. So maybe you should say outside of battle. So what are examples? In Crawl there is a haste spell. There's a haste potion, a haste wand, a haste spell, and a god ability that hastes you. And the last two are really problematic because haste is very, very strong. And the god ability and the spell, they are there in infinite amounts. And you can just, they are just there for forever. And this is this is on the verge of affecting balance. Yeah, so this is, okay, this is one idea. Another is we had a spell that is called Tomb of Ploog, which is Lily's name, it's not mine. And this was a spell. You are here, and it puts walls around you, so it makes you safe. It's like a tomb of Ploog. It makes you very safe. It's a lifesaver, but this is pretty bad in itself because the lifesaver only took 7 magic. So once players had this spell available, they would always make sure to have 7 magic left. And then if things become too dense, they would just use the spell and be safe.
Oh, it pushes monsters out of the way?
No, it doesn't, but if you are clever enough, so of course, yes, players also kept some mana for controlled blink, and then it's okay. So if they thought that they may die in the next 2 turns, they would blink first, do the 2 next, and that's it. And it was used. So this is.
And then they could heal and dig out, and then they have a corridor.
And then
because I copied this spell for powder because I really like the idea that when I read about it.
Yes, and I think the idea is very good. What is problematic is the infinite amount. So, for example, we now have the Tomb of Flow on a card. So there are decks of cards, and you can have the tomb there, but this is limited. So now you can if you have the proper god, you can stack your cards. And then you can treat it with, and you can make sure that you have kind of 5 tombs of Flow available. But it's 5. So this is strong, and it will save your life 5 times. The spell saves your life in infinite amount of times. So in this way, I mean, so non-damage spells are always a bit problematic because they are an infinite resource in a game where everything should be finite. This is just something I always noted again and again. Another one was banish. We had a banish spell that puts someone or some monster in the abyss. It's a bad place, and nobody wants to be there. Now you can also put yourself in the abyss, which is usually a bad idea. But if you're high level, then the abyss might be much more safer than what we're actually fighting at. And players did this. I saw this. So they're in a very difficult branch. And whenever they think Eric did it. And whenever they thought, or whenever he thought, well, this could go wrong, then he would banish himself, go out of the abyss, and start again. It takes a lot of time. It's real grinding, but it's much safer than to actually stand there and fight, because he might just die in the next 3 turns. So things are a bit erratic. He might just die, and he just goes to the abyss and then comes back. So this is only problematic because it's a spell. If it would have been a scroll, then it would be much more interesting when and if to use it. So this is spells are hazardous to balance. Okay, this is one thing I learned. Another thing I learned is I think this is too big.
You could just put it there.
It's like this. So another one is removing features is an option. When you design stuff and when you talk to players, then it's always about adding this and adding that. And we always, I think, we also think in terms of adding. I mean, removing is just not as cool as is adding. But removing features is an option. And for example, in Crawl, for 2 reasons. The one is balance. It could happen that you have added something or that something is in the game that is really a serious threat to balance, like the Tomb of Flow spell, and we removed it. We tried to balance it in several stages, making it more expensive, making it harder to use, but the basic problem is still there. So we just throw it out and use it in some other way. And the other one is for differentiation. If it can happen that you have a lot of features, but in some sense they all play the same to the player. Yeah, and then it's just good to move them. So examples are this tomb spell went away. We removed some species. So the mountain dwarf had to go. Sorry, the hill dwarf had to go. Well, it's only a name. So the hill dwarf had to go, and the elf had to go. And another one, you can also for interface reasons. So we had forgetfulness, traps, scrolls, and mutations. Forgetfulness means you know your map, but from time to time you forget a part of it. Okay. This can be cool as a mechanic, but actually it's not really cool because in the meta sense, the player still has had all the information. So I mean, you could go and draw a map of your map on a sheet of paper. I mean, take a picture. Take a picture, yes, very, very good. If you take a picture, and then that's it. So this is kind of this is a feature that works only against the interface. So this is bad in itself, and we should just remove it. I mean, you can do bad and really. I mean, things that make the player hurt in so many ways. You don't have to do this. So just remove it.
I think the greatest point of differentiation are enemies, actually.
Ah, yes, yes.
In many games there are just enemies with varied stats.
Yes.
But I like the approach that might be one standard enemy and another one very strong standard enemy, and every other enemy has some kind of special attack, some kind of special skill or behavior, like flying away the whole time, or using teleport skills, or using special skills.
I think you don't have to do this for the kind of mundane monsters. I mean, nobody expects the rat to fly away. But I think even there you should have some variance in crawl. I think the hit points and perhaps also hit dice that come in range. So I mean, for a rat the range is not large. It's perhaps between 2 and 4 something, or it's even 6. But for an orc warrior, it could be something between 30 and I don't know 80 hit points. So the scale is really large. They will often be in the middle, but you can have an orc warrior that is just refusing to go down because it has so many hit points. And yes, and on a broader scale, you have very many monsters that just are there, that are a bunch of hit points, and that doesn't really attack. And of course, this is so boring, and we should remove such monsters or make them more interesting. And we do this. And so, and what I'm saying is, whenever you think about adding or changing something, you should also, for a short moment, contemplate if just removing would improve things. Just for a short moment. I mean, usually it's not, but sometimes it is, and then it's just okay to throw it out.
And also to try and avoid being in a situation where you have to remove features, is to, when you go to add the feature, what I usually think is, especially for monsters or something, is does this monster require me to write new code? And if it's just adding numbers to a spreadsheet, it's not really justified as new monsters because we already have plenty of boring monsters. There should be some unique code that can't be expressed in the current world that this monster is unique to.
This is exactly. Okay. So another one that I noticed, you should never, this is a bit like forgetfulness stuff, never use interface, penalty or team for something, like for flavor or for gameplay based. So examples here are this forgetfulness stuff. Too stupid. How do you do this? And I did enter. Well, whatever. And another one is in crawl we have that waiting and resting and searching is all the same. So, I mean, of course you could have a game where searching is really important and should be something different to rest, but in crawl it's not, and then it's just the same key, and it all doesn't matter. So just if you stand around, I mean, every time you do something you also search, so that's just a given. And while there can be a need to split it up in 2 actions, we just didn't have to, so we will not force players to use either this comment or that comment. And so this is, so I mean, you can always try to improve on
I have another example of that though. In Zappum, the NetHack site, science fiction NetHack one, there's this like cortical implant you can get, which is one of the bad ones, but what it does is swaps your direction keys around. And so it's very much using interface against you, but I actually thought that was very cool of an effect, because you can sort of adjust your mind and continue playing, but it's enough to really get the sense that your character just had its mind screwed up, right? Or hallucination, for example.
But it's not a gameplay feature, it's more a mood feature of a presentation thing.
Oh, true. You have to,
because you could remap the keyboard.
yeah.
Yes, I mean, for example, the first, all of these things are usually cool the first time, or maybe the second time, but you have to ask yourself as a designer, will it be cool the 10th time? And if the answer is no, then it's probably not such a good idea.
But animals of strangulation aren't cool at the 10th time either, right? It's the idea is it is a bad effect, so of course it's uncool when it happens to me.
Yeah.
It's like I drink a potion of poison, I get poisoned. That's not cool. I'm just as annoyed.
No, this is different. I mean, so when I say cool, I rarely mean the player. So I mean us as designers. Yeah. So for the player, any bad effect is not good. Yeah. This is clear. So if it,
but I'm just trying to say that I think, like I definitely see with crawl where you're really going for a technical game,
yeah.
while you see interface penalties as being a very bad thing, like you almost be able to reskin the interface
yeah.
without affecting the gameplay.
Yeah.
But I think games in general, sometimes the bad interface is actually part of the game.
Okay, that can be it. Yeah.
And especially games with timing involved, obviously. You know, bad interface is an essential part of the game. You know, if I had a more efficient way to choose the ducks in Duck Hunt, by just selecting the duck and hitting the button rather than having to point at it, that would be a more efficient interface.
Yeah.
Yet that defeats the whole purpose of the game.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm just trying to argue that there can be a
well, then never maybe is wrong, but yes, but yeah, okay. So I would never do this in crawl. I would always try to do what is. So another one is beware the power gaming spiral. This is actually important because once you get player feedback, they demand the power gaming spiral because you get most feedback by power gamers, and power gamers demand their power gaming spiral. By this I mean you add a new feature that somehow, just an example, you have axes and maces as weapons. Maces are a bit weaker than axes. So the power gamers demand for various reasons, and they're right, that maces should be made better. So maces are made better. Then of course the axe is a bit worse and it's a spiral. Then somebody comes up with a cool idea. The cool idea must be strong enough to be used. So we add a new cool strong idea, but the players get the game gets easier and easier by the time. Yeah, so at sometimes the designers say, oh, the game has gotten really easy, so I have to make it much harder. So we add monsters that are harder than before. And then after 10 iterations, you have it's less justice, of course. Then you end up with a state where the stuff you started with, the initial weapons and the initial monsters are completely laughable, and they are not worth anything, so neither to you or to the monster. And then it's only the new stuff that counts. And I think you should really try to avoid this. And this is similar to be a bit conservative about just adding things. Think about what you add, but the power gaming spiral is something still different. What did I wrote something up here. I think the reasons why this inevitably creeps in, and we also have this in crawl, is new features are generally added from the player's point of view. I mean, I think I don't think enough in the minds of a monster. We should think more like monsters, not like players, because the players can speak for themselves and the monsters can't. New features are generally favor the player. Yeah. I mean, it will be rare that you say in a release announcement, I did nothing for the player, but I improved monsters at this and at this step. Will be very rare. But more often you will come up with a new weapon and new whatever, new god, and all of these things make the game easier. And they all turn the power game spiral. And yes, and new features. Yeah, and they make invalidate old choices. This is really a problem. So you add new stuff, and you had a carefully balanced game before, and then the new stuff is just so strong that there's no reason to make any of the old choices, because the new choice is the proper choice is take a new one, and you have to avoid this. I've seen this in Kinetic, or it's even worse, and it also appears in other places. So, and I give you a concrete example. Crawl has been becoming easier because we added many walls. These small maps with monsters and loot in there, because essentially it is more loot than it used to be. So that's easier. And now we are also trying to add a new branch. There's a shoals that has a lot of water and merfolk monsters and so on. But each time we make the dungeon larger, it becomes easier for the player, because there's more playing ground and there's more experience to get and more loot to get, and it just gets easier. And the solution I came up with is the following. That was right from the beginning. We will add the shoals, but it will be in a game you will either have the swamp or the shoals. You can't have both. So that, I mean, this is kind of a meta balancing. So you can have, yeah. It might be that the shoals are better for the player than the swamp, or the other way around. I don't know. But on the big picture, the players don't get much more than they have now. They get more fun, but they don't get much more experience.
And it's good because this adds another decision to the game.
No, it does not add a decision actually, because the player can't choose.
But it adds replayability.
It adds replayability, and it adds a little bit in terms of decisions, because once you find the entrance, then you know what branch you got, and they will be different in gameplay terms. For example, in the swamp you will need confusion resistance or poison resistance, and that's not important in the shoals. In the shoals you need something different. So at this point you know what you want, and this will affect your decisions. So this is something I wanted. So once you have this information, you can plan your character around it, but you have to have this information only in the game, not at the beginning of the game. Yes, but the point I want to make now is that adding stuff is okay, even a branch, but just instead of adding it to the game, I want to avoid making it easier and also longer. That way, I just choose, instead of shoals and swamp, shoals or swamp. Yeah, so it's just one thing. This is just my approach to avoid the power game in this simple case.
And the power game in Spiral seems to be close to mudflation.
What's mudflation?
MUDflation.
Okay.
It's a term from the multi-user dungeon community for very much the same thing, where, you know, if you run in mud long enough, you start having to keep adding content at the top end.
Yep.
And before you know it, the things that used to be the most powerful item in the game is trash because you give to newbies.
Yes. I mean, you also have this in collectible card games. Of course, in collectible card games, I don't think you can't avoid it, because the whole economical model works around it. So, but of course, in an open game like ours, you can try to avoid it. And of course, the players still will very much want it. I mean, the new players don't care, and the experienced and good players, they demand it. So you have to be really strong and say, no, or just don't listen, so whatever. You have to be strong. Okay, then another one that's technical, so this is just out of order. Has a tendency of accumulating options. So what does I mean options in the game, in the option file? And I think this is bad. And I think you should try to avoid and remove options. So for example, options usually end up in the following way. Someone codes a new thing, like a new interface stuff, but that would replace the old interface, whatever. And of course, somebody might like the old version more than the new version. Old players are typically to be like this, and then you have an option. But I don't think that's good. If you believe the new interface, whatever is better, then you should just use it. And the old players will get used to it, or I mean, if they complain long enough, they can still get the option. But you should really try to go without them. I think Crawl has by now 200 options, and then I mean,
we had more at one time, so.
Yes, of course. I think that you should just try to have an eye on this. If you think the new version the new thing is better, don't make an option. Just go ahead with it. And if it's too bad, then the players will say no.
You need to take the responsibility for your decisions.
Yes, you have. Yes.
Yeah.
This is actually a phenomenon in shareware games in general. So if you have a strategy game that's supposed to emulate Risk or Empire, then the shareware game will have screens of options, and you can tweak all kinds of parameters, because the developer didn't want to take the responsibility of saying this is a good value, this is a good parameter, and that's it. So and instead of trying to deflate the whole mess into maybe 5 numbers, we have all 200 of them. I mean, yeah, that's a problem. We should provide parameters that work, and as little options as really possible. I mean, some options are necessary, of course, but I mean, Crawl has way too many.
You mean, I think you mostly mean those Boolean options, because the color options or something that's...
Yes, these are meaningful.
Yes, but you mean like this set of the interface?
Yes, as for example, in Crawl you can...
you mean the bar, the hit-button part, maybe?
No, but for example, in Crawl there's an option that that you don't pick up stuff when there's a monster around. Yeah? So first of all, there's an auto pickup option that picks up stuff for you. This is good. Then there's another option that that does not pick up stuff automatically when there's a hostile monster inside. Then there's another option that tells that something that gives no experience is not a hostile monster, like a tree. So the last two could just be dispensable. I mean, it is a good idea not to pick up stuff when there's a hostile monster around, and it is obvious that a tree is not a hostile monster. So we should get rid of them. But it's very hard to convince the coders, because coders like options, because it's so much easier. You don't have to discuss it, you just have the option and then that's it.
You could move the options to some configuration files and don't expose them. And then just let the power gamers, the people who are experienced with games, use their old configuration files.
This is kind of a middle ground.
And to go farther, you just hard code them in the code at their values, so they remain both options in the code, but so you can revert.
Yes, but
But that's usually one of the concerns that you have. Is like, okay, I'm going to do this new interface. My fear is everyone's going to hate it.
Yeah.
But I'll find that out, but it'll be too late because I threw out all the old code, and it's too much work to move back.
It's also programmers like options because the options force them to make more flexible code.
Yeah.
Because that's nicer.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But in the end, I mean, if I imagine that a new player for some reason stumbles upon the description file of the options, I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, this is a mess.
Without even knowing the game.
Yes, in the worst case, I mean, he would say, what a rubbish, I mean, and rightly so. Okay.
But I think the very big point that is so important is that as a game designer, you should be confident that your options are correct.
Yeah.
And so even if you have 200 options to keep the people quiet in the background, because that's less work than convincing them otherwise, you're confident that those default values, you won't tell any players, go to the option file and change this if they complain to you about, like a new player comes to you. It's like, some of them are like NetHack or whatever I seem to recall. I always have to change the options file. Yeah. That's my first thing, because some of the options are just poor defaults.
Yeah. Yes, this is what we do. We are changing the defaults all the time, and I mean, I don't try to make the crawl defaults the ones I have, but I try to adapt to what would be the good crawl default. So I'm very flexible about this, and many players are not, even sometimes developers are not. So this is a problem. But we really should be. For example, in the last version, we have remapped all keys. I noted that we have casting on capital Z and zapping once on Z. This is probably inherited from Matic, but it's a bad idea, because if you are a caster, you will be casting many times, and zapping once is a much more discrete action. It's less often. And after after casting a spell, you still have to enter the level of the spell. It's a low level ladder, so you have to shift.
Of course, there's an option.
Of course, there's an option. Yes, but let's ignore it. So by default, it's shift Z and 8. And lowercase a, and this is stupid. So we changed this around. And then when I saw that we would totally change the key set, I did it completely. So I looked at all the keys and tried to move often used ones to the lowercase, no shift, no control, and change other keys back to the or less used commands back to the other stuff. So we completely changed it. Of course, player hated. I mean, everybody hates it if they have to start a game and everything is different. So we provided several ways in order to make it easier for players, so they can look at in-game at the differences, and there's an option to just go back to the old defaults. But it is in a way that for a new player, it is just a much smoother experience. And I will always design for a new player. I mean, the old player can adapt, or we provide a way that he can have his old stuff back, but I will always design for a new player. It should be most simple to just get in and start.
What you should differentiate is between interface options like
yes.
key set and gameplay options.
Yes. This is gameplay.
I mostly hate gameplay options because it destroys the comparability of like yet another victory post. It can be there are so many gameplay options. You could have persistent levels or randomly generated levels every time he enters a new and stuff like that. So in my game, I just had options header with defines, and if somebody wants to change the game, he would have to recompile it and make his different game.
Yeah.
So he would have to state, I changed the executable, and it's not the same game.
Yeah. It is, of course you're right, but all the options in the call are interface options in that sense. But even if you have only interface options, then there are options that are really useful, like what character set I want for displaying my tiles. I could need to remap a color because it displays badly on my screen. So these are all useful. But what I mean here by gameplay options are stuff that affect
interface.
Yeah, like one of the things is like auto prompt in Powder. When you walk over an item, does it pop up and say, do you want to pick up this item?
Yeah.
The Game Boy Advance and DS and the handheld world, auto prompt is on by default.
Yeah.
On the PC world, it's off by default.
Yeah.
And the difference is the Game Boy Advance, then you don't have to bind the pickup key anymore. Yeah. You just have to hit A. And on the PC world, we got the 4 keyboards and you hit the key your console to pick up.
This is very good. And yes, and like I said, there are many options that are there for various reasons.